Hello, okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me. And if you find yourself wanting to stick around to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV, then please hit that subscribe button, it will mean an awful lot to me. And yeah, welcome to my spoiler-free review of dark comedy horror Send Help, directed by Sam Raimi and written by Mark Swift and Damien Shannon. So yeah, I've been really looking forward to this movie. I've been really excited to experience an R-rated horror from Sam Raimi again. I just love his style, I love his energy behind the camera and how he brings his stories to life. They're crazy, they are wild, and I just love how he brings horror to life. So yeah, the film follows an employee and her boss who become stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash. With no one else left, they have to put past grievances aside and work together if they want to survive. And as you would come to expect with a Sam Raimi movie, Send Help has this energy to it, has this momentum to it that just swallows you up, that just pulls you into its story, and that is fueled by Sam Raimi's very familiar and classic filmmaking style. You know, just from the way in which the camera is used, it's quite chaotic, it's wild, filled with low angle tracking shots and all of that, and I was grinning year to year because I just love how Sam Raimi brings certain moments within these stories to life. It does have this crazy, chaotic, wild energy to it that just sucks you in. It immerses you into the experience in a way that's just incredibly thrilling and incredibly fun. Another element within this experience that allowed it to be as fun and as thrilling and as immersive as it was, and that's Rachel McAdams as Linda. She was superb here as this underappreciated office worker who ends up stuck on the island with the only other survivor of the plane crash, her jerk boss Bradley Preston, played brilliantly by Dylan O'Brien. Both give great performances that sell you those much deeper, more complex layers to the characters' journeys. And the movie does get pretty wild, but it's the writing, that very smart writing by Mark Swift and Damien Shannon, and the performances from Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams that just keep this entire experience, no matter how wild and crazy it gets, grounded to a certain degree, sort of grounded to a certain level. It does get pretty wild and crazy, but it always keeps its feet sort of within the ground, you could say. It sort of keeps the story, or an element of this experience, grounded, so you can always remain immersed no matter how crazy and bonkers it does get. And I think it's that blend of different tones, you could say. For example, you know, you've got those very classic familiar moments where Sam Raimi is just doing his thing, and then you'll have those kind of more subdued, deeper moments with its characters where the characters are having an opportunity to breathe and sort of really give us a little bit more insight into their history and who they are and what they're going through mentally. And so you have a mix of these tones that kind of really work very well to tell what is a familiar story, you could say, in a way that feels different, that feels refreshing, that feels new. Like, it kind of does remind me a little bit of Misery. It reminded me a lot of Misery, actually, in fact, but it was Misery on psychedelics, you could say. And I just found myself admiring how this entire experience sort of toys with you and plays with you, with how you sort of look at certain characters and sort of how you feel towards certain characters. Like, it puts you on this ride and it's playing with you due to sort of how these characters are written, how they are brought to life through their performances. And I really admire that with this experience because it constantly keeps you on your toes. Like, the film does a wonderful job, whatever that be, with the direction or the writing, in setting up its characters and getting you to feel a certain way towards those characters. And then as the film evolves, or as the story evolves, and we get to know more about our characters, it becomes a lot more complex. It becomes a much darker and layered experience that just pulls you in. At the same time, it retains that kind of that high energy and that momentum. It never loses that momentum, and it's fun. It's a fun ride. I had a really good time with this movie. I really enjoyed it. You know, we witnessed these two characters on these journeys where they are sort of opening themselves up. They're in this different environment all of a sudden, and just how these journeys evolve and how this this power dynamic between a boss and his employee, how that shifts through the story. I thought it was incredibly clever. It was very, very clever, and a lot of it is aided by its writing, but also the performances and the direction. And Sam Raimi does give what is somewhat of a familiar story a very refreshing experience that feels new, that feels different. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I really enjoyed this experience. I had a lot of fun. I think it was very clever in how it brought its themes to life, but never really gets bogged down by the sort of the more deeper, darker, complex elements of its characters' journeys. But it never loses sight of them either. It's always there, but it's just the right intensity, and just how that's kind of blended in with all these kind of different tones, whatever that be, that kind of classic signature Sam Raimi, ways of filmmaking, to sort of the more kind of subdued, quieter character moments, you could say, and just sort of how these characters go on this kind of dark descent into madness. How it's all balanced out here it just felt quite refreshing. It felt very different, and it was very fun. It was very thrilling. I didn't come out of it quite loving it. I did have a few minor niggles with the experience, one of those being CGI. I wasn't really expecting for them to rely on CGI as much as they did, especially when it comes to a Sam Raimi movie. There is this one particular moment with Rachel McAdams' character and a pig, and I just felt like they really could have pulled back from the CGI and relied a little bit more on practical, because it's a moment that ended up coming across just perhaps a little bit too cartoon-like, or just a little bit too animated. And don't get me wrong, there's still practical within this film and within the moment that I'm talking about here, but the CGI, it's very obvious, and it just didn't quite work for me. And there's also moments where we have our characters sort of walking on certain parts of the island, wherever that be, like a cliff, for example, and it just didn't look right. And I wasn't sure whether that was the lighting or the way it was shot, but it just looked obvious that all of a sudden they were on a sound stage in front of green screen. That's how it felt. And so those kind of moments briefly did sort of just stand out and just take me out a little bit. It wasn't enough to completely take me out of the experience, but it was there, it stood out, I noticed it, and it was like, oh, okay, it's not quite working consistently, but yeah. And then when it comes to sort of that story with Linda and her journey, and how the movie sort of evolves into the third act and its climax, I kind of just felt like they could have pushed it a little further when it comes to sort of those more darker, complex and deeper themes, that they are exploring with these characters. I felt like they could have pushed it in regards to kind of the disturbing nature of its story, perhaps. And perhaps there could have been maybe more of a descent, you could say, into madness. But overall, as a whole, niggles aside, I still had fun with it. I still had a blast. It was a good time. And Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams are superb here. It's their performances that kind of really help just suck you into this story, just immerse you into the story. And I was compelled by how they were bringing these characters to life and just witnessing these characters, journeys and sort of how these characters evolve, within this situation that they find themselves in, and then that kind of descent, you could say, into madness, and just how these characters sort of work with each other and against each other, and just all of that. It's a very compelling, it's very fascinating, and it's very fun. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Sam Raimi's Send Help, and I will be giving Send Help They are my thoughts on Send Help. But what do you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And remember, if you want to follow just some random Welsh geek who ramble on about film and TV, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. And just another big thank you to everyone that supported the channel, whatever it be, liking, commenting, subscribing. I'm just about to hit 600 subscribers, and it means the world to me. Your support means the world to me. I absolutely love doing this. This is a passion, and just sitting here in front of the camera, sharing my thoughts on the latest releases in cinemas, in film, and just talking about film and TV in general. It does so much for me personally that, one day I will sort of just sit down and talk to you about it more. But yeah, what this does for me is it's just been incredible, and I've absolutely loved doing it, and your support means the world. So yeah, that's it from me for now. Enough rambling. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.